to that infrastructure and build in HD TV antennas. Scientists say that it's very possible that residents far below and homes across the bay could also be affected by a radiating tower that's this complex that sends signals quite a distance.
I'm so glad that this conference is being held in a church, and it's being held in this church. This is my church, and 2.5 years ago there was a proposal to put a cell tower up on the cupola. Well, it didn't go up there. It took about 7 months for people to decide not to put it there, but in the process we learned a lot about this issue. And having the conference here 2.5 years later helps to confirm that we are making progress in getting other people to pay attention to this issue so wise public policy decisions can be made.
Electromagnetic fields are intrinsic to us. They are in us. We can measure them. Our heartbeat, you have the ECG. They are in us. They are us. They are intelligence. They are our cells. Your body is an antenna. So you absorb the radiation in proportion to the resonance between your body size and the optimal aerial. People find it difficult to understand how a very small magnetic field could change cell behavior when the Earth's magnetic field is so powerful. But the difference is the Earth's magnetic field in which our ancestors were living is a static field. When you take a field and you oscillate it, then cells that are changing with time have this oscillating field imposed on them, then that's what changes the behavior. You have 23 studies now showing epidemiologically increased brain tumour in EMR-exposed people. 4 of them only show increases in cancer. 19 show statistically significant increase in cancer, and 5 show dose-response relationships. That is a causal set of data. Where careful studies have been carried out near high-powered facilities, an increase in a wide range of cancers has been found. The most prevalent is leukemia, and a whole range of leukemias, from myeloid leukemias, lymphatic leukemias. But the class of leukemias is often found. It's found in military personnel who are exposed to radar and radio. It's found in ham radio operators. It's found in children who live near a transmission tower in Hawaii. It's found in the US Embassy in Moscow.
The Russians, between 1953 and 1976, irradiated with radio frequency the personnel of the US Embassy in Moscow. It wasn't clear why they decided to do this, and it wasn't until the ambassador came down with leukemia, and then a second ambassador who replaced him later came down with leukemia, that serious attention was felt, and samples of blood were taken and sent back to the U.S., and they were found to show increased frequency of DNA abnormalities, a failure to reproduce. The radio frequency sickness syndrome, which the Russians felt was one of the bases for their health protection guidelines, which were much lower than in the West, was reproduced in the embassy staff according to the criteria that were used in the survey. So one of the mysteries of the Cold War, why did the Russians irradiate the U.S. Embassy, could be answered because they wanted to produce this interference with the ability to concentrate, the ability to sleep, the ability to think, which were aspects of the radio frequency sickness syndrome, which they defined previously under experimental conditions. And they succeeded not only in doing it, but they succeeded in getting the U.S. leading epidemiologists to document it and then ignored it.
What is adequate evidence for decision making? Well, it depends on who you are. For the scientist, in order to come up with conclusive scientific evidence, which is a very high standard of evidence, we're looking at almost 100% certainty that an effect occurs. But is this the right forum and is this the right level of evidence that we need to make good decisions if we are a city or county that is mandated to protect public health and safety under the state zoning codes? We don't need that much evidence at all, do we? Now, the legal standard may be something down here. Maybe we only have to be about 51% certain, the more likely than not test. But we take action with less information and with less certainty. Now, under the California Environmental Quality Act, all we have to have is the potential for a significant impact, don't we? Anytime you see an environmental impact report, we're not looking for certainty of effect. 10 to 30% certainty is enough to take an action that is protective of public health. This is where we're operating when we talk about public decision making for cell siting, not over here. Do we have enough scientific evidence to be 10 to 30% certain that we may have an effect, and should we be careful? And do we do that for every other environmental constraint? You bet we do.
Radio frequency exposures began during the Second World War with the introduction of radar. The people who were exposed were mostly soldiers, some people in industry that were making products that were sold to the Army and Air Force. And the evidence that was accumulated showed evidence of effects on blood counts, evidence of effect on mutation and cellular reproduction, cataract in the eye, occurrence of headache and fatigue,